Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial, we're going to get our basic Spring web application working as an actual Spring web application. And to do that, we just need to add a view resolver. So we've configured a dispatcher servlet, and that is going to dispatch a request to our base URL to this offers controller, which is then going to return this logical view name, home. And what we need now is a dispatcher servlet needs some kind of view resolver that can take that name and translate it into an actual view to display, so a JSP file in this case. And the first thing I'm going to do here is in my webimp folder, I'm going to right click and go to new folder, and I'm going to create a folder to put my JSP files in. So I'll call it JSPs and click finish. And I'm going to select my home.jsp and drag it into that JSPs folder. So now the home.jsp is in this JSP subfolder of the web-inf folder. Now I need to give the dispatcher servlet a view resolver to work with. So if I go to Java resources here and go to libraries, Maven dependencies, and then expand the spring-web MVC jar file, and then go to org spring framework web servlet view, we'll see in here there's a bunch of different view resolvers that Spring could use. So Spring is not limited to working with servlets and JSPs, but that's probably the simplest technology that I know of that it does work with, and probably the most common as well, I'd imagine. So for that reason, we're using it in this tutorial, and we're going to use this internal resource view resolver class, this one here, to resolve this logical name home to a JSP file. So we need to add this class as our view resolver in the dispatcher servlet's context XML file, so the dispatcher servlet will know to ask this how to resolve this name home into the appropriate JSP file in this case. So I'm just going to click this package here, org.springframework.web.servlet.view, right click it and go to copy qualified name, and then I'm going to browse to my office-servlet.xml under web content, and let's click beans and new bean, and I'll give it an ID. The ID doesn't matter at all. I'll call it something like, I don't know, JSP view resolver. And for the class, I'm going to paste in that package, and then dot, and the class name is internal resource view resolver. And to double check that you've got the package and the class name correct, click the browse button, and you should be able to highlight it here. And if you can't, either you're missing the jar or you've just typed it wrongly. And if you can see the jar here, then you should be able to select it here. Let's click finish. And I need to configure two properties of this, suffix and prefix, or prefix and suffix I should say really. So let's right click it and go to beans, insert property element, and let's set prefix, and I'm going to set it to /web-inf /JSPs /. So I'm setting it to this relative to the web content folder. I'm setting it to this JSPs folder that I just created, because that's where my JSP is created, and where I put it, where it's located. And this home string that the offers controller returns is going to be prepended with this. So to find the JSP file, it's going to start with this. Then it's going to add home, because that's what the controller returns as a string. And then we're going to tell it to use the suffix .jsp. And that's how it's going to find the JSP file. Let's save that. And let's right click it again and go to beans, insert property element. And for suffix, I'm going to add .jsp. And I'll save it again. So now let's take a look at the raw XML, and I'll format it with Control-Shift-F. So we've got this bean. The ID doesn't matter, but the class is org Spring Framework Web Servlet View Internal Resource View Resolver. And we've got the property prefix set to the location of our JSP files. And it's important that it ends in a slash and starts with a slash, because otherwise I don't think it will work. It will just mangle the name, and you'll see in the console output you would see a kind of mangled name that it's trying to locate but isn't succeeding in doing so. And the suffix is .jsp, and those are going to surround this, the logical name. That's what this internal resource view resolver is going to do for us. And the dispatcher servlet will consult this when it's trying to figure out how to turn this into the name of an actual resource to serve up, which is our home.jsp file. Okay, so let's try this now. Let's scroll up here. I'll just collapse some of these, and I'm going to right click the project and go to run as and run on server, and I'll say always use this server when running this project. Select Tomcat there, click next, and that's good. So I don't have any conflicting projects configured like tutorial 53 here, which is good. And let's click finish and see what it does. So if we're very lucky, we're going to see our JSP page, and here we go. Hi there. If you're not lucky and something goes wrong, as I said before, check the console very carefully. Although this is very boring, read through it carefully and see if anything strikes you as being awry here. If anything's wrong in here, if anything's wrong, then hopefully you'll see it in here and you can figure out what it is. But here it's doing everything you'd expect it to do, and the result is it serves up this JSP page. So that's our basic Hello World Spring Web Framework MVC Web Framework application up and running. And what's happening, just to quickly reiterate again, because I have the feeling this is very confusing, is the dispatcher servlet is forwarding our request here, our slash request here. This is the web context, which you'll know if you've done much servlet programming. And so this is like the context root, and this defines our particular web application where it's located. And if we go to slash after that root, it will be handled by this offers controller. So the dispatcher servlet is directing that request to here, and that's returning home. And the dispatcher servlet is then using our configured view resolver, and the view resolver is prepending the location of our JSP file in web content, web JSPs. It's appending .jsp to it, and the result is that we get this JSP being served up here. You used to be able to actually do view resource and view source in this browser, but for some reason I can't see it here. But you can also just, of course, paste that into a normal browser and right click and do view source if you want to see the actual source of your JSP, which you often do, because if you format something wrongly here, then it's good to be able to view the results in your browser of what you're actually outputting in terms of these tags. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and until next time, happy coding.